It's November 1st. I'm going to do a alpha release of Broken Brothers. You can check it out on my site, or you can follow me on Twitter. And I tend to post little things about as I develop, and hey, whoops, this was a good idea, this wasn't. Also, come up and get a business card if you'd like, and my site's on there. And I'm going to be posting the slides on my site, so if you want to check out some of the lists or missed a note. And then. All right. So so if there's time and any questions, you just use the mic in the center there.
I've also made some games in like a few days, not like huge successful ones, but I've done it, and I've noticed I did spend a lot of time on documentation, and I kind of like wish I did. So how much effort do you actually put into game documentation? I know you mentioned a game doc earlier, but do you like make notes of your status or anything like that while you're making a game? Do you wish you did?
It changes from project to project, and that's another thing that practice is good at, because you get a feel for which project you should just do on the fly and which projects need extensive documentation. But I have like 5 notebooks scattered around my apartment, blank notebooks, and I just pick one up, once by my bed, once by my desk. And it's not intentional. I'm not some sort of lawful neutral person who like sets it up. I constantly buy notebooks and fill them up. So I always have pages and pages of scratch documents. As for official documents, I've done one for every larger project I've done. But games in a week, most of them I make do on 4 or 5 pages of scratch documents. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool.
Yo. Some forums are good, some really suck. Which ones do you personally recommend for some good feedback?
Forums?
Yeah.
The Indie Gamer Forum has some really good people on it. That's indiegamerforum.com, I think.
Okay.
It has some not good people on it, but it has some very good people, so sort of try and filter. Whichever one is for your engine, whichever one you pick. I use Game Studio, so I tend to go to the ACNEX forums. They tend to have very spot-on advice because they know the exact problems you're going through, which is good from a technical standpoint. It's also good from a design standpoint, because people will go, I like designing like this because of this limitation within the engine. TIG Source is a really good forum.
What's it?
TIG Source, T-I-G Source. It's the Indie Game Source, I think it stands for. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Oh, and my forum on my site, yes.
My buddy and I just created a company, Mind Games Intermedia, and the whole point is it's based on the idea that probably everyone in this room has enough talent that if they were to come together, we could make something. And we just created our first iPhone game, and it's like the skeleton. People play it, and then they go to the site, and it's democratic, which means that you put up an idea, people vote on it, and the idea gets refined, and once it's refined and the community as a whole agrees, it gets put into the game. My question to you is, you talk a lot about experience and all the lessons that you learned during game development, and in this kind of situation, you have a bunch of people coming together to make one game. And then from that, do you think that it's possible to get that insight of, oh, this is why you can't, play this many sounds at once on the iPhone. Oh, this is why you can't do this, etc. And then from there, you branch off into your own, and you get basically the experience that you got by doing X amount of games, except you worked on 1 or 2 with the community, and you got insight into all the different pieces. Or is it really something where you feel you need to go through each step on your own to completely understand and learn the lessons that you learned?
Well, personally, I would think that a democratic game would get fairly ground down. But as for building experience, it doesn't sound bad, because you could watch what other people do. I think that's sort of the first random part of indies. They get this period where they go from 0 to just a little bit of experience. And it's very messy. It's generally trying to make StarCraft maps in the editor. It's hanging out with friends. It's making a whole bunch of projects that fail. It's going to PAX, which is awesome. So yeah, that might do that. I don't know about, I would say once you get a certain amount of experience, I would do games in a week. I would move to a smaller team because I can't see that as a long-term thing. But yeah,
Awesome, thanks.
cool.
In your talk, you've talked about, the 7-day development cycle and the ideas. How long during that 7 days do you typically take for your idea and refining it, or is
I
that
start with
something
an
that?
idea.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have the idea, then I start developing 7 days. And that's just because I don't sit down and say, 8 hours, I'm gonna come up with a game idea, or 8 hours, I'm gonna write a game doc, because that's too official. I generally write my games in and around all my other stuff. I write them, sometimes I will sit down and for a couple of hours sketch, but it's when the urge takes me, not in a planned way. So, yeah, my ideas sort of filter into all aspects of my life. I come up with ideas in the shower, I come up with ideas when I'm walking, I come up with ideas when I'm eating, And yeah, for 7-day games, you do not want to go, all right, I'm going to start now. What should I make? That's too slow.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, you mentioned your first game had a budget of $5,000 or it cost $5,000, whatever. What exactly were the costs?
Mostly art. I'll go back to the slide, but I hired an artist. Like most of the game, other slides I've done, I did the art, which is harsh for me because I come from a programming design background, no question. But I hired an artist and advertising, which I wouldn't really recommend either one now, in retrospect. Artists, I happened to luck out. He was hardworking and he was good. But I had to work with him to such an extent that it probably would have been better just to use my own art style. I did the flamethrower, and he did some of the sprites, but I had to put a lot of time into the flamethrower. I could have just done it on my own. Same with most of the interfaces. And basically, I probably should have hired him for the mesh textures in the background. Advertisement is what I spent a good chunk of that money on, which was good because it sort of got some buzz going. But there's a lot of indie talks and forums and a lot of GDC speeches that are going around the internet that talk about how to do PR instead of marketing, because we don't have the budgets that any of the big companies do. We don't have a tiny fraction of the budgets. So it is better to wear a fez, to walk around and do some sort of stunt, to talk, to do various things that generate buzz, and not spend thousands of dollars, because thousands of dollars just are not enough. It's a slippery slope. If you spend $100, you're going to get almost no sales of your game. You spend $200, you're going to get more than double what you had before. It goes up, and we just don't have the money to go all the way to the end where it starts getting profitable.
So for a 7-day game, which do you think is better? An applet, like a browser game, flash game, or a game that you have to actually download and not necessarily install, like Cortex Command or something?
Right. I do downloadable games, but PC, I'd honestly say web browsers are probably better. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. Learn your engine. I haven't suffered from doing downloadable games. Petri does downloadable games. Cactus does downloadable games. Tower Goo is downloadable. Bubble Jam is downloadable. So obviously there's no inherent failure for doing downloadable games. But rough guess, I would say that browser games are going to be better for just getting it out there. It's free anyway, right? And Unity is awesome for that.
You talked a lot about like the 7-day cycle, and it's sort of similar in my mind to rapid prototyping, but it seems like a lot of the games you've made have not been repeats, and I was wondering why that is. If you sort of want to, if the idea is to get better at game design or like practice, it seems like you should make a platformer that sucks and then make a platformer that's better, and then finally make the best platformer ever made or whatever.
I see what you mean, and I can follow your logic there. But basically, it comes down to 2 points. Doing what you have passion for, which meant I did a platformer and said, I don't really like making platformers, especially something else. And the second thing is I was purposely trying to stretch 2 muscles for me, which was art, because I sucked at it, and I've gotten better since. My very last game, I got a whole bunch of compliments on the art style, which is amazing for me, because I didn't go to art school, I didn't do any art. And then the other one was I wanted to practice my game design. And I don't mean game design of platforming